Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room. Can you believe it? Another week has gone by and we're back at a sporting weekend. It's been a full week of World Cup qualifiers, UEFA Nations qualifiers, African World Cup qualifiers, cricket action, and it's all going to start again tonight into tomorrow and Sunday. Also drama in Formula One. Oh, what a week it's been. Let's have a look first at cricket, shall we? And the Rajasthan Royals and the Kolkata Knight Riders were at it in a low-scoring game during the IPL, and the Rajasthan Royals scoring 151 for 9. And South Africa's Quinton de Kock came to the fore, really smacked it all around for the Kolkata Knight Riders to win by 8 wickets. He hit 97 not out of just 61 deliveries, the second player in the week to get to 97 not out and just not get over the line at the end of the day. 6 maximums and 8 boundary fours for him, and he dominated completely in the Kolkata Knight Riders' victory, their first win of the season. New Zealand were also at it against Pakistan, 50-20 international. They won that series 4-1. 131 for 2, chasing 129 actually for victory, and they knocked those runs off in just 10 overs after restricting Pakistan to 128 for 9, and that also saw a 97 from Tim Seifert, not out 97 of just 38 deliveries. He hit 10 sixes and 6 fours in his innings of 97. Really, really good performance by him in that one. A big win for the New Zealanders. And then the Gujarat Titans and the Punjab Kings also added, and Shiraz Iyer also 97. 3 of them in a week of 42 deliveries in the 232 for 5 that the Gujarat Titans scored, but the Punjab Kings scored, but the Gujarat Titans, well, they got over the line 232 for 5. So a good win there for the Punjab Kings by 11 runs. And the best game of the week was the one between the Sunrisers Hyderabad and the Rajasthan Royals. Victory there for the Sunrisers Hyderabad by 44 runs. Chennai Super Kings against the Mumbai Indians. The Super Kings winning by 4 wickets. And as I say, the Titans and the Kings as well. As far as the fixture list looks like for the rest of the weekend, in action as we speak in the Cricket South Africa 4-day series, the Lions against the Dolphins. There's been lots of poor weather up in Johannesburg, so not sure how much play they'll get over the next couple of days. Western Province up against Boland in the beautiful Cape. That's another big event in Cape Town, along with the Spa Women's 10K Grand Prix, and the Titans against the Dragons at Centurion. There's also action this morning with Australia against England. Chennai Super Kings are in action at the moment against the Royal Challengers Bengaluru. Tomorrow, New Zealand play Pakistan in the early hours of the morning. That is in a one-day international after New Zealand hammered them in the T20 competition. The Titans play the Mumbai Indians tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. And then on Sunday, the Australian women take on England women. That's the Australian A team against the England A team, the Delhi Capitals. At midday on Sunday, play the Sunrisers Hyderabad, while the Rajasthan Royals play the Chennai Super Kings in the double header. And on Monday, it's the Mumbai Indians against the Kolkata Knight Riders. And every single day, right the way through till almost the end of May, there is cricketing action, and it is fast and furious. Now, another big cricket story that happened over the last couple of days is that the World Cricketers Association, which of course South African Cricket Association is part of, they issued a blunt assessment about the state of the game, and you would have heard it here first when we've spoken to Andrew Bretsky on many occasions, the CEO of SACA, the South African Cricketers Association, about the state of the game. Well, the World Cricketers Association have urged officials to create defined windows in what's called a chaotic schedule and provide a fairer distribution of the sport's riches. Now, Andrew has spoken to us about that on a number of occasions. The Global Players Union comments formed part of a review that took 6 months to compile and included the views of both current and former professionals, administrators, and commercial partners. It concluded that the unchecked growth of 2020 franchise cricket is creating a stranglehold that leaves the current chaotic, inconsistent, and confusing international schedule at genuine risk. The WCA's most striking solution to that problem is a complete overhaul of the International Cricket Council's existing Future Tours program. Not a chance will that happen. The ICC are not run by the ICC. The ICC are run by the BCCI. Now, Paul Marsh, the chair of the subcommittee who produced the report, said while there are a number of positive trends in cricket, there's no doubt that global cricket is at an inflection point. Many of the issues highlighted in the report are challenging, but they need to be discussed if they are to create a more sustainable future in more than just a few countries. Marsh, who's the son of the late Australian cricketing great Rodney Marsh, said that creating a clearer global calendar and incorporating more consistency across formats along with greater competition, integrity and context for international cricket will benefit cricket and all of its stakeholders hugely. The WCA report also called for a new revenue model to combat the current financial dominance of India, England and Australia, and modernisation of the ICC based on principles of shared ownership, independence and representation reflective of the whole sport. I couldn't agree with it more, but at the same time, I can't see it happening. I absolutely cannot see it happening, and I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But unfortunately, the BCCI, which controls cricket in India and everywhere else in the world, well, they've got so much power that there's no ways can I see it happening. But that is for a future discussion. Now, there's a new name on the world tennis scene, Alexandra Ila. She's just 19 years old from the Philippines, and she's produced some huge upsets this week. The biggest one, beating the world number 2 Iga Swiatek to reach the semi-finals of the Miami Open. She's ranked 140th in the world, and she became the first woman from her country to reach the last 8 of a WTA 1000 tournament. She beat the Pole, the number 2 ranked player in the world. She's also beaten 3 Grand Slam winners en route to the last 4 in Miami. Of course, Iga Swiatek being one of them. She also beat Yelena Ostapenko and Madison Keys earlier in the week. Ila rather moved to Spain at the age of 13 and joined the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca. She is a young prodigy, 19 years of age. Watch out for that name going forward from the Philippines. Not a country that we have ever had top-ranked tennis players from before, and she is definitely one for the future. Now, there's also been some chat over the last couple of days about Andy Murray and Novak Djokovic. Well, Djokovic says working with Murray still feels a bit surreal, but it has offered him an opportunity to finally build a personal relationship with the Scot after their long rivalry on court. The 24-time Grand Slam champion Djokovic appointed former fellow world number 1 Andy Murray ahead of the Australian Open and said at the Qatar Open they would continue working together for an indefinite period. The duo reunited during the hardcore tournaments in the United States after reaching the Miami Open quarterfinals. Djokovic said he was grateful to have Murray on board. He said they shared the same stage, so to say, and they were on the tour for a very long time and know each other for 20 to 25 years since their junior days. But obviously, when you're rivals, you don't interact as much. And actually, as we were waiting for matches to restart after the rain, they had a very interesting talk. He said he always had great respect for Andy as a player, but now even more so as a person. He's such a nice guy, and he's really grateful he cares about him doing well on the court. Djokovic won 25 of his 36 matches against Murray and said he was still getting used to having the Briton in his corner. He says they're trying to get the most out of the relationship of player-coach and also spend some quality time together. They play golf and have enjoyed dinners, and they're having some fun. I wonder who's picking up the tab, Murray or Djokovic? Not that either of them are short of a penny, a pound, a dollar, or even a euro. All right, let's move our attention now to golf, shall we? And the golf schedule for the weekend as we head towards the Masters, the DNI Tour Championship, the Courier Guy Playoff Series. That is underway at the moment at the Blair Athol Golf Estate. Jason Rutsch, George Coetzee, the South Africans are flying high there. Mainly a South African field, a couple of international golfers, Europeans mainly on that one. And then one of the biggest tournaments of the year on the PGA Tour in terms of raising funds, the Texas Children's Houston Open at the Memorial Park Golf Course in Houston, Texas. That always brings together the best golfers in the world, and not only brings the best golfers together in the world, but also raises massive amounts of money for children's hospitals in and around Houston, Texas, and America. And then on the DP World Tour, the Hero Indian Open is underway at the moment on the DP World Tour. As we move later on into next week, we're at Valero Texas Open in San Antonio. Action locally, Soweto Country Club sees the Vuzi Ngubeni Tournament. The Sunshine Tour qualifying school final stages takes place on the banks of the Heron River. And then on the 10th of April, it's the big one. It's the Masters at Augusta National Golf Course in Georgia in Augusta. The azaleas, the dyed water, the dyed, beautifully manicured greens. They're no spectators, they're just patrons. The champions' dinner the night before. Oh, it's all steeped in tradition. And top-ranked Scotty Scheffler and the world number 2 Rory McIlroy play their final tune-ups for the Masters in Houston while they prepare for Augusta. McIlroy, who won the Players 2 weeks ago after taking the Pebble Beach crown last month, is making his first Houston trip in 11 years. And believe it or not, plays the course for the first time. The 35-year-old from Northern Ireland visited Augusta National this week to start preparations for the Masters, which is the only title he needs to complete a career Grand Slam. He says he uses the trips just to refamiliarize himself with the place, clubs, off tees, looking to see if they've changed any greens. He says, honestly, for him, it's nice to play a practice round without people around, and it sort of takes the pressure off the start of the Masters week for him. This time in Houston, it's about competing and trying to add another title to his season before his quest for a green jacket resumes. Repeated shot making under tournament pressure is on McIlroy's mind. He wants to keep playing well. Scotty Scheffler, who was runner-up in Houston last year, a season in which he won 9 titles, including an Olympic gold and his second Masters, but Scheffler missed the first month of this season with a hand injury and is only now getting back to normal form. He finds Houston's Memorial Park course a worthy place to prepare for the challenge of winning a third Masters in 4 seasons. Like McIlroy, however, Scheffler is concentrating on winning this week before trying out to win another major. Okay, motorsport this weekend. The news that's been rife the whole week. Yuki Tsunoda will partner world champion Max Verstappen at the Japanese Grand Prix following Red Bull's decision to sack struggling Liam Lawson after just 2 races. The 24-year-old Tsunoda will be promoted from Red Bull's sister team RB for his home race at Suzuka next week. Red Bull have been unavailable for comment, though, but that's the news that's been floating around all the time. The New Zealander, who was drafted in from RB in the winter to replace Sergio Perez, has endured a miserable start to the 2025 season. He's been knocked out at the first stage of all 3 qualifying sessions and has yet to score a point, while Verstappen in the other Red Bull is second in the title race with 36 points, 8 behind early season leader Lando Norris of McLaren. So, I know it's been speculation, I know it's been rife, and you know what they say, where there's smoke, there has to be fire. But this weekend, it's 2-wheel action, the American GP at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. That's where the riders will be for the MotoGP this weekend. Is it going to be Bagnaia? Is it going to be Marquez, the brothers? Will they be fighting it out? We'll tell you on a Monday after all of the action at the weekend. Okay, rugby, and there is lots of it this weekend, lots and lots of it. Hong Kong is the venue for the Hong Kong Sevens. Yep, the Blitzbokke are there, they're ready. Apparently they're in absolutely superb form, and earlier in the week Philip Snyman was saying it's quite scary about how well they're playing, and he believes they're only at about 70 or 80% of their capacity. That doesn't augur very well for the other teams in the group, and it's a very tough group. The Blitzboks play against Australia as well as New Zealand. It's a very, very tough group that the South Africans are in with those 2 sides, and Uruguay as well. So a very tough group for the Blitzbokke in the Hong Kong Sevens. That tournament today, tomorrow, and into Sunday. It's actually the original Sevens tournament, Hong Kong, the one that everybody loves to go to. United Rugby Championship action this evening. Ulster will be hosting the revitalized Stormers. Hopefully that run continues. And Edinburgh take on the Dragons. Then, of course, tomorrow, the Bulls are at home to a Zebra after the forced minor operation to Vali Leroux. They'll be without him, and they had a fantastic result, didn't they, against Leinster last weekend. Connacht will take on Munster at 4:30. The Bulls game's at 2:45. Llanelli Scarlets play Ospreys. The Sharks play Leinster. That's going to be a massive clash at Hollywood Bets Kings Park. Sharks against Leinster. There is some stiff competition between the two sides, and a big win for the Sharks could really bolster their chances of actually even getting into the top two places, or at least second place on that log, and hopefully help themselves to some home matches going forward. Benetton host Cardiff, and Glasgow Warriors play against the South African Lions in the last game of the weekend. And then on Monday, it's UJ against UCT, UP against Shimla's, NWU against Cut, Wits against Marties. Those are the matches in the Varsity Cup. And the other big news this week is the new sponsor for the Springbok rugby jersey in South Africa. The FNB, First National Bank, will take the front of the jersey in place of the mobile sponsor MTN. And at the back of the jersey where FNB were, reports are that Pick n Pay, a South African retail supermarket in South Africa, will be the new sponsor on the back of the South African rugby jersey. Now back to the rugby action in the United Rugby Championship. Let's have a look at the tables, shall we? And there was some change with Leinster losing their first game of the season after 12 in a row. Their 13th game was unlucky 13 for them. They lost to the Bulls. Well, they're still way out ahead, 9 points atop the table over the Glasgow Warriors. The Bulls 4 points behind the Warriors and only a point ahead of the Sharks. So the Bulls and the Sharks, depending on how results go at the weekend, could very well find themselves in second and third place on the log. In fact, if results go against the Bulls and for the Sharks and against the Warriors, the Sharks could even leapfrog into second place on the log. Depends on how their game goes, but I can't see them beating Leinster by a massive margin, even if they do get the win, although Siya Kolisi's been playing the rugby of his life, and I'm sure he'll be out there to prove a point against his former coach, Jacques Nienaber. Cardiff are 9 points. They're adrift in fifth place, so the first four pretty much secured at the moment, with Munster, Ospreys, Stormers keeping the top 8 positions, with Ulster and Benetton level on points, just a point behind the Stormers in 8th. That's 9th and 10th. And then 11th and 12th, Edinburgh and Connacht with 31 points, and the Lions with 30, and the Scarlets with 28 in 14th place. A lot and lot still to play for moving towards the end of the season. Lots of rugby action coming up. You're listening to the edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room. We'll have more for you after these.
Hey, Unique Tribe. I'm thrilled to announce that our upcoming episode 68 drops on April 6, 2025.
This episode, we are diving deep into a topic that resonates with many of us, trauma and its impact on our behaviors. We will explore how complex trauma, characterized by ongoing, repeated trauma during childhood, can lead to avoidance in our adult lives.
Whether you've experienced this personally or know someone who has, this episode will shed light on the often. Tune in on April 6, 2025. You can listen on all major platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcast, www.uniqueyetconnected.com, and more. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share with friends and family.
Hi, I'm Louis Karpas. Join me on the Boardroom to the Locker Room review program on Monday evening as we look back at another fantastic sporting weekend. Who made it through to the semi-finals of the FA Cup? How have the log positions changed at the United Rugby Championship? And who lifted the crown at the Hong Kong Sevens? And who was the winner of the Spa Women's Challenge in Cape Town? Find out all the answers to those questions on the next edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room. Join me then. Then, of course, as you would have heard last night, the Spa Women's Challenge takes place in Cape Town on Sunday, 10 kilometers around the beautiful Greenpoint Common area along the beach, the ocean, and the views of Table Mountain. Should be absolutely a crackerjack event. 16,000 runners sold out. It's not just a 10-kilometer, it's a fun event, and it's by far the best 10-kilometer and women's event on the South African road racing calendar. And then, of course, football this weekend. Oh, how we miss the Premier League. And let's start with the Betway Premier League in South Africa. Tomorrow sees Chippa United against the AmaZulu Golden Arrows, against Kaizer Chiefs, and Magesi against Stellenbosch FC. On Sunday, it's Polokwane City against Richards Bay, TS Galaxy against Boruma Gallants, and SuperSport United against Cape Town City. Those are the matches in the Betway Premiership here in South Africa. As far as other footballing action is concerned with regards to African participation, the reason that Sundowns are not playing this weekend is because on Tuesday they're in the CAF Champions League action at home to Esperance, while Orlando Pirates are away to MC Alger. And then the return leg of those matches the following Tuesday. So obviously a couple of postponed matches in the Betway Premier League here in South Africa. International football through the course of the week for South Africa. Bafana, well, it's been drama to say the least. Off the field, the staff at the South African Football Association, SAFA, who of course hosted a World Cup just 15 years ago, have no money to pay their staff. Then, to make matters even worse, South Africa went and played a game in the World Cup qualifiers against Benin, and they had played in the match against Lesotho last weekend a player that should have been suspended, who had 2 yellow cards. They're going to most probably be docked 3 points. So that's another issue that Hugo Bruce had outside of his own control. They are sitting so pretty at the moment on the top of their group in the World Cup qualifiers, and that would be a huge blow to South Africa, who sit 5 points clear of Benin in second. Right, I know you're all waiting for it. What is the Premier League in England look like for this weekend? And I can tell you now, the crowning of the champions are close. It's the business end of the Major League seasons across the world. And in the Premier League in England, it is Liverpool who look on course to win the title. Arsenal's victory last Sunday over Chelsea reduced Liverpool's lead to 12 points with 9 games left to play. It means that Liverpool need a minimum of 5 more wins to make sure of their first title since 2020, but that is only if Arsenal stay on a winning track. Any slip up from Mikel Arteta's men will make Liverpool's task easier. They face Everton at Anfield, and if they win the Merseyside derby and then take another 3 points away to Fulham, they could win the title by the 12th of April, the day before they play West Ham United at Anfield. If Arsenal were to lose all 4 of their upcoming fixtures and the teams behind them, including Nottingham Forest and Manchester City, slip up as well, that will be it. Game, set, match, and Premier League to Liverpool. So it is going to be an absolutely crackerjack Premier League when it gets back underway next week. You know what next week is, don't you? Yep, it is April Fool's Week. So you must just watch out for any stories that you might be reading that might be a little bit confusing. But this weekend, it's FA Cup action, and tomorrow sees Fulham against Crystal Palace, and then the late game sees Brighton play Nottingham Forest, and it is then on Sunday, Preston North End against Aston Villa and Bournemouth against Manchester City. Not your usual Arsenals, Liverpools, Manchester Uniteds and the like. It's Manchester City who are, of all of those teams, perhaps the one most likely that you would have thought in years gone by to go forward. Watch out for Nottingham Forest. They are having an absolutely incredible season. And then after the FA Cup weekend gets us underway, we move on to the Premier League, and the Premier League action for next week sees April Fool's Day, and you never know what will happen as far as April Fool's Day is concerned. It's Arsenal against Fulham in a London derby. Good news for us all here in Southern Africa is that the clocks change. So 9:15 is the time of the matches moving forward, not 10:45. So it's Arsenal against Fulham, Wolves against West Ham, and I know my executive producer will be awake for this one, as his beloved Nottingham Forest will host Manchester United in the Premier League on Tuesday evening. And then on a Wednesday, it's also 9:15 kickoffs for Bournemouth against Ipswich Town, Brighton against Aston Villa, Manchester City against Leicester City, Newcastle against Brentford, Southampton against Crystal Palace, and it's the derby, Anfield in Liverpool, for Liverpool against Everton. And if that derby isn't big enough, the very next evening it is Chelsea against Tottenham Hotspur in the west of London for Stamford Bridge, Chelsea against Spurs. That's tonight's edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room, as we look forward to a fantastic sporting weekend. Monday, we'll look back at another great sporting weekend, all the stories behind the stories, the results, and everything else that happens over the weekend. As always, be nice to each other. Until next time, bye for now.